Hey, are you still up, big brother?
Look, seriously, you always say you're going to listen to me and help me, but then I find you trying to fall asleep. You're such a lazy big brother. But whatever. My teacher said I should practice reading this out loud, and you're the only one around, so you're stuck with me, loser.
Let's get comfortable, okay? Here, rest your stinky head on my lap. Not like anyone else would let you.
I'll try to keep my voice soft, nice, and slow, so you can just relax while I go through this. But don't blame me if you accidentally learn something for once. Okay, so
My report is about the murder of Julius Caesar. Yeah, that's Caesar, the Roman guy. Dictator, general, politician, super important. And also, apparently, very bad at noticing when people are about to stab him.
oh. okay. I'll behave for now.
So, we start in the late Roman Republic. By this point, Rome wasn't really functioning the way it was supposed to anymore. There were constant political struggles between different factions, mainly the Optimates, who supported the traditional Senate elite, and the Populares, who claimed to represent the common people.
Caesar aligned himself more with the populares, at least politically, but really, he was ambitious.
Like, really ambitious.
He just took whatever or whoever he wanted.
He rose through the ranks, became a skilled general, and gained massive popularity after his campaigns in Gaul, which is basically modern day France. Those campaigns made him rich, powerful, and honestly, kind of unstoppable.
Being unstoppable sounds pretty nice, right?
So Caesar formed something called the First Triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus. It's basically an unofficial alliance where they all agree to support each other to gain power. But it doesn't last. Crassus dies in battle.
Like a sad, lonely loser.
And suddenly it's just Caesar and Pompey. And surprise, surprise, they don't get along anymore. Pompey sides with the Senate, and Caesar is ordered to give up his command and return to Rome as a private citizen. And Caesar's like, yeah, no. Instead, in 49 BCE, he crossed the Rubicon River with his army. That was illegal. Like, very illegal. Roman generals weren't allowed to bring their troops into Italy. Crossing the Rubicon basically meant declaring civil war. And Caesar literally says something like, the die is cast, meaning there's no going back now. You'd never do something that dramatic, right? Actually, don't answer that. You probably would. Anyway, civil war breaks out between Caesar and Pompey. Caesar wins. Pompey flees to Egypt where he's assassinated, which is kind of ironic considering what's about to happen later. And Caesar returns to Rome as the most powerful man in the Republic. Now, here's where things start to make people nervous. Caesar is declared dictator, at first temporarily, but then eventually dictator for life. And that's a huge deal.
Like, so huge.
because Rome had a very strong cultural fear of kings. They had overthrown their monarchy centuries earlier, and the idea of one man holding too much power made the Senate deeply uncomfortable. Can you imagine someone having that much control, big bro? They probably get a little full of themselves, right? Not that I'm talking about you or anything. So, Caesar starts implementing reforms. Some of them were actually pretty good. He organized the calendar, reduced debt, gave land to veterans, and tried to stabilize the government. But he also centralized power around himself. He filled the Senate with his supporters, accepted honors that made him seem almost royal, and generally acted in ways that made people worry he was becoming a tyrant. And that's when the conspiracy starts forming. Assassination. A group of senators, 60 or so, begin plotting to assassinate Caesar. They call themselves the Liberators. They claim they're doing it to save the Republic. And honestly, some of them are probably just jealous or afraid of losing their power. Two of the most notable conspirators are Brutus and Cassius. Brutus is especially important because Caesar supposedly trusted him. Some sources even suggest Caesar saw Brutus almost like a son, which makes what happens next kind of worse. You'd never betray me, right, big brother? The assassination is planned for the Ides of March. That's March 15th, 44 BCE. The Senate is meeting at the theater of Pompey, and Caesar is supposed to attend. Now, there are all these little warning signs, like a soothsayer supposedly tells Caesar to beware the Ides of March. His wife, Calpurnia, has nightmares about his death and begs him not to go, and there are even rumors that he received written warnings about the plot. But Caesar ignores them all. You would listen to me if I warned you about something, right? You'd better. So Caesar arrives at the Senate. Everything seems normal. The conspirators gather around him, pretending to present a petition. One of them, Lucius Tullius Cimber, approaches and grabs Caesar's toga like he's asking for a favor, distracting him. That's the signal. Suddenly, they attack. Caesar reacts and tries to defend himself. At first, he resists. He's confused, shocked, trying to understand what's happening. Then more senators join in, and they surround him. And one by one, stab him. There are around 23 stab wounds in total, though interestingly, only one of them is actually considered fatal. That's a lot. Almost like they weren't trying to just kill him, but they were trying to make a point. And then Caesar sees Brutus. Depending on the source, his reaction changes. Some say he stops resisting the moment he sees him. Like that betrayal is what finally breaks him, and where the famous line comes from. Dead too, brute. In the end, Caesar's death doesn't save the Republic. It actually leads to its collapse and the rise of the Roman Empire under Augustus. But that's a story for another time. Kinda tragic, don't you think? Anyway, that's the end of my report. You probably didn't even hear half of it, but I guess that's fine. You look so peaceful when you're asleep. Hey, big bro. You know,
I'd never betray you, right? Just like you would never betray me.